Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Cookiecast. Today on Cookiecast, it's our wrestling podcast, Getting Over. We've got Paul Williams in the house, and newly appointed host Stuart Woodmansey has made the trip over to lead us through the wilds of the WWE, NXT, and Progress. So here we go. This is Cookiecast presents Getting Over. And a 1, 2, 3. Remember back in the days when we used to have to do like that and like say things and all that?
Well, it was
until I worked out how to actually do
It's podcast time.
It's podcast time. Let's do this. Which Leanne's, if Leanne's ever on a podcast these days, she still does it, and I'm like, we don't do that anymore.
She's not the only one. If Ed is anywhere near the podcast,
Ed loves an old school intro.
it's podcast time. Let's do this, and he also likes to. He likes to give it one of them.
He still gives it one of them. Yeah, I'm like, Ed,
he loves it.
We don't do that anymore. There's things called the magic of editing, which I don't do anything.
Which you would have thought he would know all about.
I mean, I kind of had to. It was kind of a baptism by fire. I had to learn how to do it, and then I had to learn how to do more of it. And then I had to learn how to edit out of podcasts, usually.
I thought that was going to be dig at him, because all those times that Paul just mentions that, and then just constantly goes on a massive rage about that.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about, Stu, and I definitely aren't going to be editing anything out of that podcast. You have my word that I won't remove anything that you said there.
This is unbelievable.
You too, Paul. I leave in everything that you have to say.
Have you taken some of my stuff out?
I mean, obviously, the fans do refer to you as Silent Paul. I don't know what that is.
Have you actually taken some of my stuff out?
Jay and Silent Paul.
Have you actually taken some of my bits out before?
No.
That's amazing if you have.
No, I said to you that. I edited a podcast the other day. I took... it wasn't even 30 seconds. It was 3 seconds out of a podcast.
Right.
I said something at one point in time.
I was like...
A couple of weeks later, I was like, oh no, that could be taken really badly. I was like, right, it's just audio. I'll just snip it. I'll just snip that bit of audio out, and that's fine.
Won't even be able to tell to our
God.
Cameras all over the place.
Oh, it was such a nightmare. Well, it was just audio. It was just audio, but I'd done it the wrong way. So I'd lined everything up in the video editing tool, and then was trying to do it through like the audio stuff, and I was like, crap, because I thought it was the podcast after. So I was like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to cut it out there, and then I'll marry it up with the video editor. Oh God, it was such a fucking nightmare. I'm like, I should have just left it in. So yeah, I generally don't edit anything like this.
Little sneak behind the
curtain.
Hey, I'll tell you something. That's a nice way of bringing it.
I have business.
Snugly in.
I have business before we kick this puppy off.
Whoa!
I'm not going to do the intro to this because that's not my job. That is not my job as reigning champion. It's not my job. I have minions for that sort of stuff. But I have a bit of business. So, a little conversation with as facilitator of this particular podcast. If you hadn't guessed by now, it's the wrestling podcast. We'll get an intro somewhere. It's fine. I'll edit it. I spoke to the better known Mr. Paul Williams about a little bit of business around the wrestling podcast. Namely, I had to move the description of the previous wrestling podcast into the description of the current one. Sometimes it's long, sometimes it's short, sometimes there's different names, different this, that and the other. And I noticed something in the description I was copying over, and I was like, that does not feel right. Got on a conference call, Mr. Williams, really got it locked down, signed a few contracts, moved on.
Yeah, we never did sign those contracts, did we?
It's really
Swiftly moving.
that's a whole other thing I'll come back to. I'll show you my internet search history.
Oh dear.
That's real muddy. Real muddy.
I'm not
When I just
enjoying
find a
it.
contract, a podcasting contract to sign with another company, I'm like, no, don't want to sign that. Got on a conference call with Mr. Williams, got a little bit of business started. So this is the first wrestling episode podcast where we will be announcing as a collective that we'd like to introduce the host of the Cookiecast Presents Wrestling Podcast, Getting Over, Mr. Stuart Woodmansey.
Hello.
You've had a bump up in titles.
Credits and stuff.
Thank you very
But
much.
it was one of those things that I moved a description over. It was like host Paul Williams and co-host Stuart Woodmansey. I was like, that does not feel right whatsoever. I was like, Paul, we need to correct an injustice.
We need to right a wrong.
We need to right a wrong.
I feel like that's the appropriate time to then say I'm technically getting over.
Yeah, exactly.
You are getting over.
That is literally
Absolutely.
how it works.
At the end of the year, I will release some numbers. I've been collecting some numbers up, and as for getting over, there are certain podcasts that are definitely getting over, and it's mine. Mine's the best. What can I say? But yeah, I'm going to release like other stuff at the end of the year, either on a podcast or just in general.
Podcast
like
analytics.
Yes, podcast analytics. There's some interesting stuff.
I thought for a second you were teasing some compilation of Paul sneezing, coughing.
Oh my god!
Sorry,
have you ever done a blooper cast?
There's a load of video stuff that I'm putting together that is just my crotch.
Running back for the.
And I'm up to 9 hours 20 minutes of Paul blowing his nose.
Standard.
I'm up to 18 hours of Paul winning the quiz.
There will be at some point a podcast that I record where I either won't blow my nose or
Not gonna
bite
happen.
my nails or chew on something.
The defeat in the quiz is chewing on defeat.
I mean, that's obviously
Chewing the
never ever
scene.
going to happen. I mean, the subject could be almost anything, and I'd always win it.
So, by the fact that we're talking about the end of the year, you can probably guess, if you've been following along with the wrestling, that we are fast approaching the December pay-per-view.
We are.
It's time for Cookiecast Presents Getting Over 12. And yeah, we're all here, as usual. We are missing one Mr. Matthew Moore this time.
We are moreless.
He submitted some predictions this time, so
Ahead of the game.
ahead of time. So we're in that kind of weird limbo that we kind of discussed a little last time of like, because SmackDown's now moved to Fridays. Thanks very much, Fox. I'm gonna say that genuinely. I don't want them to sue me. They've got lots of money. But some matches are getting announced late, real late. So we're gonna start quantifying this with at time of recording. The match listing that we have is as current as we can get it. If things are added after time,
We will do the adjustments and then announce.
Well, everyone's on
We
Insta
normally
and
do.
stuff out there, so
Yeah.
if necessary, things need to be added.
I'll do a little picky week. Again, brain not working. There was something in there. I'll come back to it.
we've got a little bit of business from last time around.
A little bit of
Biznatch, a little bit of biznatch.
business.
So we were here last time discussing Takeover, War Games, and Survivor Series.
It was what you'd said about now that the wrestling is on Fox. When you watch live American football, it's like every
Filled.
single advert break is just wrestling.
It's classic because if you're watching a Fox broadcast, well, at some point on Red Zone, there will be a point of a game where it will be a Fox game broadcast, and at some point it will say something like, "These players are laying the smack down on the Broncos, and on a Friday you can tune in to see Roman Reigns lay the smackdown on somebody else on Friday Night SmackDown on Fox."
It's like you were doing the broadcast.
Just like it. Seriously, I can only assume that when Andy said he was like going to draw up contracts and stuff, mine was to move to the the professional ranks.
The Broadcasters Guild have been on the phone and they
Yeah.
are well and truly all over what you're
Basically,
laying down.
they've seen that Tony Romo made the successful leap into the broadcast booth, and they're thinking that I'm the next logical step.
It makes sense.
I mean, it's just perfectly logical. So, but don't worry, I will not forget my roots.
As we've got essentially two pay-per-views worth of results.
Booklets.
So, yeah, Tim, Becky two belts, Tommy $2 is the so anyway we've there's a bit of suspense in the middle. There's I can give you the scores as they went. So at the end of night one, Matt unfortunately didn't have any scores for either. So Matt's out of the running.
Matt's chewing on a bagel right there.
He's taken the loss by DQ right from the beginning.
Forfeit.
I out of 5 matches, managed to predict a whopping 2 from Takeover.
That's not bad.
Picking Pete Dunne as the winner of the Triple Threat number 1 contender match, and Finn Balor to win his return to NXT in ring action. Unfortunately for me, the 2 gentlemen joining me this evening also picked those 2. And also got separate matches correct, finishing the night on 3 correct predictions. Paul picked Rhea Ripley's team to win the Women's War Game match. Andy chucking in the extra point because he correctly predicted Kevin Owens would be the missing member of Team Ciampa.
Son of a bitch.
I knew it was coming.
Not because anybody got that match right in the end, because we all picked Undisputed Era, saving himself, pulling it back.
You jammy goit! So you got your extra point for getting the correct person, not for getting the correct result. Oh, he's played a blinder.
What can I say? I know my predictions.
Played a blinder.
Moving into the second night of predictions.
So what you're saying is you're currently retaining the title.
Currently
as it stands.
Mm-hmm. In terms of matches at TakeOver, as usual, I think I was expecting TakeOver to be better than Survivor Series. I might be in the minority, I'm not sure, but I actually enjoyed probably both fairly equally. Might be because there was a huge influx of NXT on the main pay-per-view, but
it was very... Yeah.
Special mention to the finish in the Men's War Games match, because that was absolutely mental.
Is it ended the same way in back-to-back years?
Similar. It was it not a cage match between Ciampa and Gargano that you're thinking of?
Maybe.
But Eric crashed through 2 tables from the top of the cage. Nuts. Absolutely no need for them to be taking that.
Especially Ciampa, when you consider he's just come back from neck surgery.
But incredible. That was just... Then again, the Women's War Games match was great, but probably for more story-based purposes.
Yeah.
So anyway, to keep you in suspense no longer, moving into Survivor Series, we had a maximum point score of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I personally smashed 4 of those, so I had a 50% record, so improved slightly, 6 points overall. So this is where it starts to get interesting. Andy picked 5 of the 8. So that's pretty good score.
So you're on 8 out of...
8 overall.
I can't remember how many matches win the first one.
8 out of 30.
There we go.
And... I say and new podcast predictions champion, the ginger one himself.
No.
2-time.
Mr. Paul Wilson.
2-time!
Pipping him by 1.
Oh.
Do you want to know do you want to know the match? And there's a high level of irony in this. The match that won it for him.
Cobbs?
Nope. Because it went all the way to the main event of the pay-per-view, which was the Becky versus Bayley versus Shayna Baszler triple threat.
That is definitely...
There's absolutely no way.
Paul sticking by his catchphrase, because there was absolutely no way that Bayley was winning that match, and both myself and Mr. Cook had predicted that Bailey would, picking Shayna for the win and tying up the night not only for NXT but himself. Mr. Paul Williams, your new pay-per-view predictions champion. It's time, Andy. It's time.
Can't do it. Can't.
I'm not going to burst into song.
You've got used to that, haven't you? You've got used to wearing that little thing.
It's been a few.
It's been a few rounds. Even
Well,
though there's been
was it that we didn't cover?
Yeah, we had one where we didn't do the greatest blood money bloodbath, didn't we? So we.
You can't call it that. They're gonna find you.
Look after it.
Here he is. Just going to throw this in there for any cross podcast listeners, but Paul, that is a trophy technically that's appearing on a podcast, so you shout. So yeah, other stuff that's happened since. It's been marginally quiet, but for the first time in a long time, two things have happened.
First time ever.
We've had some suspensions for the wellness policy violation.
It's been a while since we've seen one of them, actually.
It has.
Was the last one Reigns?
Wellness policy being
Drugs of a certain nature, but it's not always the same. It's just basically a substance. It's not necessarily roids. It's a substance that's on the banned list.
And
marijuana.
It could be.
Can be recreational.
So, I saw a fantastic thing online today about
More often than not, it's usually some sort of pain medication that they've taken that they've not realised.
If, as far as I understand it, there are certain pain medications that if they've got a prescription for it, but it is on that list of things, if they've got a prescription, fine, because they've been told they have it. If they've not, different story. You mentioned the marijuana.
Is it Riddle? Riddle's allowed to take it medicinally or something like that?
I'm not sure. I couldn't be...
I'm sure there was something that Riddle's allowed to take because he's issued on prescription for it. I don't know. I might have just made that up.
The thing I saw was the difference between two certain wrestlers, and there was a picture of Pete Dunne, and it said small joint manipulation because he likes to bend people's fingers. There was a picture of Rob Van Dam that said large joint manipulation.
Was it posted at 4:20? Because if not, someone's missed an absolute trick there.
The suspensions were Primo. Genuinely forgot he was still employed.
That is the face of a man who's like, sorry, who's that then?
A member of the Cologne family.
Do you remember?
One of them.
Do you know who Carlito was? The guy with the big afro. It's his brother.
So yeah, and Robert Roode. So that was kind of a bigger deal.
So he's actually been on TV within the last couple of weeks in quite one of the bigger storylines in the company because he's part of the Corbin Reigns thing, isn't he?
Has been, yeah.
So that could potentially have ramifications.
Not for at least 30 days now.
Yeah, so he's kind of... And the worst thing is he's kind of shot himself in the foot there because he'd been on the back burner and then he'd started getting a bit more of a push again. So he's kind of fucked himself there.
They'd been thrown together with Ziggler, hadn't they? And they were both in that similar position of...
Yeah. They weren't having anything done with them and then they were starting to get stuff done with them. They'd won the tag belts and then they lost them again.
My only thing out of this is that I really hope that it doesn't affect Ben Ziggler in a negative way because
that
guy gets shut on from on high every time. They're on the bench for 30 days. Some people, the other thing that has happened that hasn't happened for a long time, have actually been released. There's been 4 people go.
Whoa.
It's rumoured that there may be more to come, but again, probably in ascending order. The Ascension. So Connor and Victor, tag team that were kind of meant probably like a Diet Road Warriors.
It's really weird because the week before they got released, I was sort of thinking to myself, why don't they just send them back to NXT? Because they're really over with the crowd at Full Sail. So you'd imagine that if they just turned back up at NXT, it'd be like, oh wow, nice.
I mean, the main worry out of all of this, as we all know, is that guy who consistently stands in the front row with his Push the Ascension sign? What is he going to do?
He will find a new team and throw all of his weight behind them.
Sin Cara has also gone. This may be a slightly confusing one because Sin Cara isn't really a person. Sin Cara is...
Yes, this is the second time Sin Cara has been released.
Sin Cara went the first time and they replaced him with another wrestler in the same...
Sin Cara.
Yeah. Basically, WWE own Sin Cara as a character. Doesn't it mean something like faceless?
Empty face?
Yeah.
It's like, is it karaoke is empty microphone or something like that, or empty artist or empty band? So
they basically own the image and the character, so they own the mask and the ring jacket, I guess, and the tights. But the fact that they've promoted it, I'd be surprised if they do that again.
Yeah, you wouldn't imagine so.
But the biggest name is Luke Harper, former member of the Wyatt family.
Another one who'd actually had stuff on TV within the last 2 months.
It's a difficult one though, because there was that thing around, he was put in the Worlds Collide tournament around the time of WrestleMania where he was just coming back from injury. Nothing was going to happen with him at WrestleMania, so they put him in this thing which is like filmed as something to go on the network, fills a bit of time, but the winner of the tournament overall got was it a North American title?
I think they got to choose. They got to go for a title of their choosing, didn't they? But it had to be a secondary level championship, so they couldn't just win it and then just go straight after like the Universal title,
straight on for Seth or Brock, as it
yeah,
would be.
basically.
But they've repackaged him a couple of times. He's decent in the ring. He made that mistake earlier in the year, rightly or wrongly, of asking for his release. But it was all around the time that AEW was starting to come to fruition. A little bit earlier than when it started, but it was when they were certainly like laying the foundation. And I think we kind of get the impression that WWE just stopped it from happening so that it didn't just clear off and start making them loads of money, because, like I say, he's decent. Interestingly, even though they've been cut, it's reported that they still have their no compete clause, so they can't go anywhere.
It's usually 90 days.
Works out around March time for people's return. So
WrestleMania. How strange.
Or some other possible AEW pay-per-view that they might put on around the time of WrestleMania.
How strange.
So yeah, so that's kind of been the WWE news, as it were. We've got a little event coming up this weekend with a kind of link to NXT UK, I guess, because it's the next chapter of Progress. Chapter 99 with a flick, please. Yeah. That myself, Mr. Moore, will be attending with Mr. JFG of other podcasts.
The League fame.
A very decent card. Very decent card. If Matt was here right now, I'm pretty sure he'd be waxing lyrical about it too.
Pretty much.
There's some... I was looking at this card yesterday thinking, just for purposes of the podcast, I just need to pick one match to talk about. I'm not going to pick one match to talk about because the whole thing is standout. If you haven't seen it, if you've any interest in Progress, go and take a little look at it. But the headline match is going to be Eddie Dennis versus David Starr for the Progress title. The Proteus title, which the rules decided by the champion as to how it's contested. Paul Robinson, the current champion, likes to set the rule of the match has to be decided by knockout or submission. He's going against the double hard, has a black belt in being hard as fuck, Chris Ridgway. That should be outstanding. But yeah, other things on there. Too much to talk about on the podcast. Go and have a look, and definitely check it out on demand when it hits. As a side note, also wanted to say thanks to Matt. Bought me a little present yesterday. Progress, when they do new ring mats, also come with sponsorship. So thanks to Mr. Moore and his eagle eyes and spotting it very quickly, mine and Matt's name is going to be on the next Progress ring mat.
Awesome, that's pretty cool.
Wow.
I'm not sure how quickly it sold out. Matt did all the details on it, but I finished my sporting activity last night to find out that had happened. And was just so yeah. Thanks very much, Matt. Really appreciate it.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool.
So probably brings us into why we're here. We mentioned it earlier on. This weekend is WWE TLC, the final pay-per-view of 2019. Few main stories going in this time. Some much better than others. So let's start at the bottom of that pile with the Lana Rusev.
Oh my god, the storyline that just won't die.
Well, hopefully after this weekend will be the blow-off. That's what she said.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know they like to blur the lines of real and fake. What's real, what's storyline. I don't think anybody on the planet believes that Lana and Rusev have split up in real life.
Not a chance.
But she's flaunting around with Bobby Lashley week in, week out. They had a little set to at the network special, which they've done in between times as well. Starrcade obviously was that important that this is the first time we've mentioned it. This weekend, however, because it is TLC, a lot of the matches have a little stipulation to them. So for that particular match, they've gone Rusev versus Lashley in a tables match. That'll be probably early doors, I would guess. I would hope.
Do you know what? Could even be bumped up the old
pre-show.
I think.
My only
Although it's been all over TV, hasn't it? So
yeah.
You'd imagine they'd probably put it on the main show.
Yeah. So
and obviously they've got to keep room for the pre-show title.
Not been mentioned yet, but then again,
part of NXT now,
yeah,
officially. So it might not be.
I think the two biggest things have been after the fallout of Raw getting absolutely panned at Survivor Series, scoring 1 point all night, which was on the pre-show. Wow. Seth Rollins has been really taking the mantle of locker room leader to the absolute get the fuck off my TV level, because he's been so bad. However, they have played into that. That's kind of the angle they were going for, and it's been this whole thing with Kevin Owens, and they've now, on the most recent Raw, Rollins has shockingly aligned himself with the Authors of Pain, the returning Authors of Pain. It's been branded online as Shield 2.0. I think that's a little bit harsh. I think it's got legs. I do like AOP.
Yeah, I don't mind them.
Big dudes. They've got.
I think you'd probably quite like them. They've got a bit of a feel of sort of they wouldn't feel out of place in like UFC style stuff, because they're pretty bruising. I can only assume that one of them, or possibly both of them, must have played linebacker or something like that in the past, because they're fucking massive.
They've got Vince's classic instant heat of the fact they can both speak a foreign language, so they get to play Johnny Foreigner for...
Yeah, one's Albanian, I think.
Most of the promos they've cut so far have been dual language, so instantly the crowd gets on the back. But also nice to see Kevin Owens actually getting a push towards the top end of the card on Raw.
Yeah.
You might have noticed that we are talking about the top end of Raw, and there's been no mention of the WWE title. Brock's gone on his jollies again, it seems. So,
do you know what? I was literally just thinking, like, who is the WWE? Literally couldn't remember.
Apparently not scheduled for anything
until
next year now.
You won't see him until 2 weeks before the Rumble, I'd imagine.
But I guess the highlight of what it has been leading into this is the extension of the story between not only Bray Wyatt and Daniel Bryan, but now The Miz has got involved, and we're finally getting to see that split personality thing with Bray Wyatt, because for the first time since The Fiend's arrival, he's going to wrestle this weekend as Bray Wyatt himself. So he's not going to be there as The Fiend. I think last time we were on, we briefly touched on possibly the new Fiend belt that arrived by this point, and they were still are charging $6,500 for the replica.
A couple of people actually bought one, I think.
If they've got the money to spend it, that's their choice. I personally would rather go on an absolutely mint holiday than spend that on there. I have seen one doing the rounds online by a girl who does cosplay stuff. She's handmade it herself. I
saw that there was at least one person who was trying to make one themselves.
Looks incredible. She's done a really good job. Unfortunately, I don't have a name to hand with, as I give her a proper shout out. But if you're listening, you know you are. That was awesome. Be interesting, this one. There's been a bit of talk as to whether it's going to be for the title or not. No definite confirmation, but as we mentioned before, we were recording before SmackDown has aired, so we'll hopefully get a bit more clarification on that by the end of the week. So, we have a full match card for this weekend. Again, as we've done before, we'll go through predictions as we go through. Much to Paul's dismay, as mentioned, we don't have the confirmation of any pre-show title match yet. I'm sure it will come later this week.
Boo.
So we'll kick things off with the man who has had a knock on his door, Mr. Alistair Black versus Buddy Murphy. Could be pretty tasty, this one. Both two sort of younger members of the roster, not had all that much exposure on the main TV shows, I wouldn't have said, really. It's only really started to kick up a gear in the last few weeks. I think the split and the definitive draft has definitely helped these two guys out, but it seems like they've been forgotten about until about 4 or 5 weeks ago. So, finally getting a bit of airtime, which is good. Alistair Black, for me, has to win. I'm going straight in with mine. I'm picking Black all day.
Same here.
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense to have him be kept off TV for so long, to bring him back to have him lose.
And whilst they have been giving Buddy Murphy a bit of a sort of an underlying push as well, he's not had the vignettes where he's been sat in the darkened room.
No, he's not.
And all that sort of stuff. So, Matt, shockingly, has also gone for Alistair Black. So is that a clean sweep?
Mm-hmm.
Would appear so.
As we briefly touched on it, Rusev versus Lashley tables match. I want to see the good guy win. I guess that's where they've been going with it.
I don't see how they... I don't see how they can't. Because, it's... Surely you can't sort of have this story of this, the good guy loses his wife, loses everything, and then loses the match. Surely the redemption of the story is that he gets the satisfaction of beating the guy who's taken his girl from him. Surely.
Yeah.
So that's why he's picking Lashley then.
it should be. I just... I don't know where Lashley goes from. They brought him back. He was bang average the first time around. They brought him back with a little bit of a hoo-ha around Mania. And he's been bang average ever since again. He needs a mouthpiece, which is why I assume they've put Lana with him. Because he's got the body of a god and the voice of a 4-year-old. And it doesn't match.
Well, they tried him with the mouthpiece before, didn't they? They tried him with Leo Rush. And that didn't really work because Leo Rush just was a bit too much of a gobby bastard. I don't know if this is something where it feels like they kind of need someone else to get involved to sort of spark a new story to come out of it, to split off again. So will it be they said that, did they cover it on Raw this week that Lana cheated because Rusev had cheated first? I've genuinely lost track with interest. So would it make more sense to get one of the girls who's not doing much to come in? Oh, Liv Morgan's been off TV for ages. Is this the way they bring her back into it?
She's been promoted for a reappearance as having a Liv makeover, so she's due back.
Is it potentially the way to bring her back into it? I don't know.
So, you sticking with Rusev?
I'll still go with Rusev.
Matt has gone Bobby Lashley. He's playing for points already and he's not even in.
He's a surreptitious motherfucker. But you ain't getting anywhere near Silvery.
Goldie's younger sibling.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say Whitey.
Yeah.
That could be...
Definitely can't throw that up. I'm so torn on this. I want to go Rusev.
Or is it possible to just say Lana wins by pushing them both to the table?
No. I'm going Rusev because I want it to happen, not because I think it necessarily will. What you got, Andy?
Bobby Lashley.
50-50 split.
All over it.
In next on the list, what could possibly only be described as the most thrown together match of the night. We've got they've built a TLC women's tag team title match. Kabuki Warriors as champions, so Asuka and Kairi Sane, versus two women who've been tooth and nail against each other for the last 12 to 18 months.
But they love doing this.
Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair.
This has always been the hallmark of WWE. Big feud. You've got two people who've been feuding for a long time. They absolutely hate each other. What are we going to do? Oh, put them together against a tag title, against the people who are the tag champions. Have them win the tag championship.
Yeah, I was going to say this one as they will win. Written all over it.
It's the age-old story.
Yeah. Boy meets girl. Boy finds out girl's name. Boy loses girl.
Droid loses alien blob android.
So I take from that you guys are going for some new champions.
Big time.
Absolutely.
And then the tension starts from there, and then obviously, eventually it will lead to Charlotte wins the belt. From Becky.
Again.
Because they've just had this with the Braun Strowman and
Excuse me.
where they were fighting each other and as a tag team.
Yeah, with Rollins.
Yeah.
A couple of pay-per-views ago. Yeah.
And then they also did they sowed the seeds for the exact same thing with Braun Strowman and Tyson Fury.
Yep.
I'm also picking new champions. Mr. Moore has also picked new champions, so that is a clean sweep across the board. I think it's more to get Charlotte Flair back into the title picture, as we've discussed. We do have some more titles on the line next, however. The SmackDown Tag Team titles, what could be one of the matches of the night, unfortunately it is one that we have seen quite a lot of recently. The Revival versus the Tag Team Champions from SmackDown, The New Day.
Your favourite boys.
Let me preface that with Andy's favourite.
I mean, we're obviously going to go straight to the corner to see what your opinion is on this.
I mean, do you even need to ask?
I've already written R for Revival.
Two sets of new champions. Andrew, you could not be more wrong.
The fucking New Day.
Well, there's rumours in there that apparently these two have asked for their release as well.
Yeah.
So it would probably be a decent way of getting them to stick around, I suppose, by putting the tag titles back on them. A lot of hot potato with the titles though.
Yeah, your favourite. I am going for the New Day. Also because they've got some stuff to promote going on at the moment. So I think
What, a new podcast?
A new album?
no, not a new album.
They got a movie coming out.
No,
Technically, they've got a new podcast though.
we don't mention that.
We don't mention rival podcasts on the podcast pod. You know this.
Matt has picked New Day also, which leaves the reigning defending pay-per-view predictions champion.
It's got to be the New Day for me. They've only just won them back.
So that's points for me right there.
Well, is it though?
It is. Absolutely. New Day can suck it. You can quote me on that. Please.
That's the tagline for
Please.
for the podcast from now on.
Please.
Episode 12, New Day can suck it.
So, WWE seemingly had forgotten how a TLC match worked until they've then done the women's match where the belts will presumably be suspended above the ring. Hence the ladder in that actual match, right?
You would imagine so.
And then instantly forgotten how it worked by sticking Roman Reigns versus King Corbin, Paul's favourite.
Your
absolute
favourite.
No, he genuinely is not, but I think he genuinely is yours.
You actually love
I
it.
said to you when I enjoyed watching Triple H Pedigree a couple of weeks ago.
We were always watching a little bit last weekend, and the lads were in the room at the time, and they got genuinely annoyed because they knocked his crown off. I was like, boys, you're doing this all wrong. You'll learn as you get older. Anyway.
His boys are going to grow up to love Baron Corbin. And he's going to absolutely hate it.
They're at an age where they're like, obviously fairy tales are like an actual thing, and the king's generally quite a good person in the stories most of the time.
He wasn't in Shrek.
It's not a real fairy tale.
Yeah, it is. Wayne Rooney's still playing football.
And there's the fairy tale ending.
He's going to Derby, for his fairy tale
When?
ending. He's there now, apparently.
Really?
Well, yeah, because, his 32 grand a week contract or whatever it is that he's absolutely legitimately getting paid for by Derby. It's absolutely nothing.
Also, as well, though, as he turned up in the front row at Raw a few years ago when he was still at United.
He got chinned by Wade Barrett.
Big wrestling fan.
I don't think he is, but I think he's as big and as
That
much.
much said he was for the night, though.
I think he's as big as much as it was a case of, do you want to get on camera and a bit of cash? Because he looked like he's short of it.
Probably a few quid these days.
As they've got nothing to grab, so to speak, above the ring, I assume it is just kick the living out of each other with
Kick
ladders.
the everlasting out of each other.
Yeah, with some tables, some ladders, and a few chairs. I'm going Roman Reigns all the way, absolutely, until the end of time on this one.
I'll be joining you on that one.
Mr. Mort has also gone that way.
Paul's going to
Lads.
book the trend.
Who won at Survivor Series?
Roman Reigns for his team.
What did he do?
He speared King Corbin out of his shitty little boots.
Correct. So, in the delicious world of 50-50 booking in WWE, welcome to the wraparound.
Corbin reach around.
Corbin gets the win through weird. Had you written that before I'd even said it?
Paul, I'd written it as soon as I started asking you the question because I knew exactly what it was.
I reckon he'll get the win through nefarious means.
I would counter that on the basis of last week's SmackDown and that he's already had his payback by the fact that he tipped dog food on Roman Reigns.
But he's the big dog. So is that an insult?
Because he had him tied to the ring post when he did it, because obviously Corbin's got some kind of weird fetish also. Yeah, it was a bit of an odd one.
Plus, I think obviously the better wrestler should win the match.
Shots fired! Big
No,
time.
that was legitimately just to get your gander up.
Just no. They've genuinely got the same amount of good moves each, but Reigns does things in between that better than Corbin for me. And as well, what I feel like we've absolutely flown through to the last currently announced match on the card. Although I have just noticed Matt's got another one on his message that he sent me, so I'm gonna have to check that out. We don't know if it is for it. It might be. It might not be. So the Universal Champion Bray Wyatt versus The Miz.
Let me guess. You're not happy that it's not the Fiend.
I can't imagine you want to listen to me talk for the next 45 minutes about how I truly believe that the WWE are yet again shafting another character.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
I think the problem is
and
though,
The Miz.
I don't mind.
You go for this for the next few. I completely disagree, and then I'll get to that.
I think that
As in shafting the Miz, or
I don't understand why we went so far and then now we've come back to Bray Wyatt's going to wrestle. Why?
no, I think they're doing this absolutely correctly.
I agree.
So the thing about the Demon with Finn Balor was the fact that you didn't see it all the time, and that's what made it captivating and exciting, because it was a case of, ooh, when's he going to bring it out? And if for nothing else, the Bray Wyatt Fiend thing could be a good marketing ploy, in that you've got two distinct characters there, and he can potentially show that he's weak and vulnerable as Bray, but that he's pretty much indestructible as the Fiend. So
then why go down the route of having wrestlers Bray?
that makes sense. I get that.
Because they need a way. He's not going to be champion until the end of time.
And
That's
he does need a way to lose matches.
There's an interesting thing that's doing the rounds at the moment that I quite like the sound of, and it's one of these things where we'll talk about it, so it absolutely won't happen. But the belt, the title belt that the Fiend carries with his face and all the rest of it, about the possibility of nicking a little bit from Harry Potter and using it as almost like a Horcrux kind of a deal. The sense of...
So that the Fiend's in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, for the uninitiated...
What?
It,
Something to do with the chocolate frog, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. Essentially, something
to do with Hermione Granger.
You do know it.
Is it something to do with Hermione?
Hermione.
Obi-Wan's younger sister.
Yeah, Obi-Wan and Hermione.
So basically, a way to hurt the demon would be by destroying something which contains a piece of him, and essentially it's got his face on it.
Right.
So,
okay.
So that was quite interesting.
Right, okay, that makes sense.
But I think the way that they'll play it is that when... Or I'm hoping that they'll play it, will be when the title is lost by Bray, the Universal title in its actuality obviously goes to the new champion, which makes the Fiend's version just disappear, and then there to be some kind of internal struggle between the Bray Wyatt character and the Fiend, because the Fiend blames him for losing it and so on and so forth.
Interesting. But he can't attack himself.
No, but they have done Kane versus Kane and Undertaker versus Undertaker in the past, so let's not put it past them too.
True, very true.
Again, that sounds like very good story, so it will never appear on the WWE.
His brother is still with the company.
Oh yeah, but
so they've potentially got that where they could, like, obviously it won't be.
He does need to bulk up by about half.
Yeah, I mean it'd still be very obvious that it's a guy playing one of the characters, but they've got something there that wouldn't be too out of the realms of possibility to be able to pull off, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. For the fact that they've now not confirmed if it's for the title or not, for the fact of where the story we touched on briefly, but the main story is still with Daniel Bryan. We had this thing on SmackDown last week where Daniel Bryan's in the ring, the Fiend sort of pulls him to the depths of hell as it would have used to have been described back in the JR days.
Is this where they've sliced open the ring?
Yep.
Right, okay.
Drags him underneath the ring. The Fiend then reappears and starts throwing strands of hair around. So it does bode for the re-emergence of Daniel Bryan with short hair.
Interesting.
So for the fact this whole thing with the non-title title, I think it will be non-title. I think Daniel Bryan will get involved. I've gone for a Miz win, but it could quite easily be a Bray Wyatt win by DQ because he just comes out and attacks him. So I'm still going for the Miz because that keeps like an extra level to the story if they need to fall back on it at any point, because they could quite easily make it into a triple threat Rumble then if they need to.
Yeah, makes sense. Is it? I'd be tempted to pick no winner.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can absolutely do that if you
and
want.
Have like it just basically goes to like it just descends into a bit of chaos and they just throw it out.
Yeah.
It's not one of the stipulation matches thus far.
No.
Oh, God, I hate it when they just turn a random match into a chairs match.
Well, they haven't got one yet, so that's definitely getting
that has absolutely no rhyme or reason to it. It's like the year that they made. Was it Rowan was attacking everyone with the steel steps, so they made it a stairs match.
It's a good job they haven't been doing that with it.
And how does that work then? Oh, you can use the stairs as a weapon. Oh, right, okay. Just like in pretty much every other match. Oh, yeah.
It's a good job that he's not got a match this coming Sunday, because otherwise it'd be the cat carrier, because he's been carrying around a basket.
Yeah, I've still not, because obviously I don't watch it anymore because I don't have the means to record. Although that will change when it moves to BT. Because I imagine I'll be able to get it on their catch-up service, which seems to be quite decent.
They've started advertising it now as well on BT Sport.
Cool.
Mr. Cook.
I don't I'm a bit I'm struggling here because I don't want to feel like I'm throwing points away. Because obviously the belt has to come home back to where it belongs.
The belt is quite comfortable where it is.
I can hear it. I can hear it screaming from here, and I need to.
She's just loving it. She's just
let
sat here just thinking. If anything, it's because she's content.
I don't think that's it.
Technically, that'll make you allergic to it, surely.
Oh yeah.
But I also don't feel like I can't not pick Bray.
Okay.
So I think I'm going to tell you to stick with now Bray Wyatt.
Okay.
And you're definitely going for Bray Wyatt to win the match, not for like some sort of like
I
shenanigans to go on where he goes under the ring and comes out as the Fiend.
I mean, I would go with that. I would go with
that'd be awesome if they were able to pull that off.
Away and then re-emerge as the Fiend, but then
you'd imagine they have to wrestle in completely different gear.
Yeah, like what's Bray going to come out wearing? The jumper and the
absolutely is.
He'll come out as the Firefly.
chinos.
Like you imagine he'd wrestle in the Firefly Funhouse get up.
Yeah, I think he will.
Which will be fucking hard to wrestling because if he's like wearing is it a woolen knitted jumper that he wears?
It's not going to be the world's longest match, is it?
Do you not reckon?
Nah.
I reckon they could string it out to a good 15-20 minutes.
I don't think they can get him changed quick enough.
Probably not. I mean, they'd have to have some sort of like... Unless, like, as he goes under the ring, cuts to a VT, which is very, very possible in that character.
And it's quite a long setup in terms of when from the lights start to go out. And there's like the
it's not... I must admit, from the bits I've seen, it's not an instantaneous blackout, is it? It's like... Doom. Do-doom, do-doom, and it does. There's like blocks at a time that tend to like go down.
I might need you to put me down for that then. I might need Bray Wyatt
slash
the Fiend.
So Bray Wyatt to start the match, Fiend to finish the match.
Yeah,
We'll be generous enough to say that as long as Bray Wyatt wins in some form, you'll have.
As long as one of Bray Wyatt's personalities wins the match, you can have the point.
I think I'm more comfortable.
We have had a very late addition.
Last minute.
Mr. Moore is indeed correct that the Viking Raiders are to issue an open challenge in the defence of their Raw tag team titles. So, Mr. Moore, to his credit, has gone straight in, given us the prediction. He's gone for the Viking Raiders to retain.
I absolutely agree with that.
In the same way that we got the bonus point for the last member of team Ciampa.
Mm-hmm.
If we guess the correct
You could.
opponents.
I would need to then get that team from Mr. Moore because he has just given me a winner. I'm definitely on board with that, and straight off the bat I'm picking Street Profits again because they've already done it once. They had a show of respect on Raw. It'll happen again.
Is it a Raw Open Challenge or is it a WWE Open Challenge?
Not specified. It just says. But did we all see as well that because the draft, right, and they're definitely going to stick on their own shows and they're not allowed to do that cross-brand bullshit anymore.
Yeah, because they never go get.
Sami Zayn definitely didn't just turn up on Raw this week because he's applied for his managerial license. Is how they're now getting around that. So it's started, unfortunately. More on that to come in the future podcast, I'm sure. Hopefully they won't keep going down that road, but we'll see. So yeah, I've also picked Viking Raiders, and I'm going for the Street Profits as their opponent. I'll get Matt's team. Paul, who are you picking to win?
I'll absolutely go for the Viking Raiders.
Okay.
But I need to have a look at...
It's not going to be Primo and Epico, is it? Or Ziggler and Rude. Maybe it could be Ziggler and Epico. The two that are still...
Yeah, good one. So I've just shown up. I'm having a quick look at the Raw roster, and apparently David Otunga is listed as the Raw roster. I don't think he's been seen for several years.
That'd be an alright shout, I think.
Yeah.
Might be a bit too obvious.
Willow.
Yeah.
Listed as Raw.
Mm-hmm.
So that plays into my thing from earlier. Right, I can't find anyone better. So, I will... It's between two for me.
Okay.
So it's either going to be...
Ooh, I might... Ooh, go on.
I think it could be answered by Authors of Pain.
I was just thinking that you were going to put that. AOP.
It was either going to be them or Gallows and Anderson. OC. OG? OC.
OC. Mr. Cook, do we
I'll
have
take them then.
the OC?
Yeah.
And we will
Spread the
confirm,
cost.
confirm things up with Mr.
Nice.
Moore. So which team? So yeah, that pretty much brings us to the end of the predictions as we have them. Thanks to the late edition, we are now up to 1, 2, 3, 7, seven matches.
There'll definitely be more put on that.
I would have thought there'd be one more, probably the Chairs. If the Chairs doesn't get added to an existing.
So what? We haven't got a secondary title in any of that. No Intercontinental.
No,
US title match.
No, there was a rumoured Intercontinental title match happening between Nakamura as champion and Braun Strowman. Mr. Strowman is currently nursing an injury. So that's been pulled as far
Shelved.
as I've seen. Although I'm pretty sure
I mean,
they'll
it
return
wouldn't-
to that.
It wouldn't put it. I won't put it past them to just sneak AJ versus Mysterio back on for the US title. Personally.
Yeah. Yeah, because when they announced the changes, they definitely weren't doing immediate rematches for former champions anymore, but they've definitely done that already. So yeah, as we mentioned before, we have been sort of chatting before the podcast saying that we might throw something together in terms of like an end of year review or like a possibly
It'd be quite
podcast awards maybe.
Yeah, it'd be quite good to sort of like do like a round, an end of year roundup. Potentially do like they do in Pro Wrestling Insider does They do a top 500. We won't do that because that would take us forever. But we could do a Wrestler of the Year, Match of the Year.
You'd get to the end of the top
Pay-per-view
500
of the
and then
year.
instantly have to do another because it'd just start all over again.
Yeah.
But the next pay-per-view on the horizon isn't until the 27th of January, which is the Royal Rumble. And
But Stuart, that isn't the next wrestling event that's on the horizon, is it?
well, not for us personally, no. Obviously, aside from the aforementioned Progress event this weekend, NXT UK returns to the area. 17th and 18th of January.
Very much to the area.
The fallout from NXT TakeOver Blackpool 2. So we will find out what has happened to the UK title. We didn't mention that the actual UK title has been stolen.
Is it true?
Yeah.
Is it actually a true story now?
They stole his passport. Sorry, we should probably fill this in. So, Volta, the current WWE UK champion, whilst working in America, has had his rental car broken into and his gear stolen. So much so that he was working in a main event for a company called Evolve, who are partnered with WWE, and the night that it happened, didn't have his UK title because it had been half-inched, lost his passport in the same break-in, and had to wrestle barefoot because he had no boots.
Oh my god.
Still worked the show though, so fair play to the guy.
to him.
But yeah, so we shall find out if he can defend, or indeed find, the UK title by the time that he shows up to face Joe Coffey. That has been announced already.
I wonder how many.
So there's no spoilers.
I wonder how many of the replica UK titles they've got in the States.
I'm a little worried that they're going to redesign it. They'll keep it, but they'll change the logo in the middle to match the women's one. And I've just bought one.
He's just bought one. No.
So yeah, but yeah, so we've got that on the horizon. In the far off land, actually not far off land at all, of York, and and then on to the Rumble.
The best pay-per-view of the year.
The start of the road to WrestleMania, and it will mark a full year since we started the podcast, the wrestling podcast. So,
indeed,
big thank you to you, Mr. Cook, for putting up with me for
Thank
this
you
long.
to you
And
for doing all this.
But yeah, so I think, has anybody else got anything else?
No, for me that puts a lovely little bow on top of that particular package.
And to hear more about Paul's package, tune in next time. When...
Yes, it will take a long time to get through it. It won't take very long to get through.
So yeah, thanks everyone for listening, and I hope you enjoy the weekend's events, and let us know how you get on with the predictions.
Yeah, and you keep those laces out, and remember, you can't see the forest. Oh no, wait, I'm just getting confused.
This is definitely getting over.
Well, someone is, with his promotion.
It's getting over. This podcast is getting over, and this episode is getting over.
It's absolutely over.
If you're not down with that,
we've got 2 words for you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. Yeah.
That needs
Thanks,
to be
folks.
out every time.
Oh, okay. We've got 2 words for you. Bye-bye.
Hey, bye.
I like that. It's quite good.
So there you go, what do you think to that? Another one done, and another wrestling podcast in the bag. Who have you predicted to win this pay-per-view? Let us know in the comments, or even drop us an email. YouTube watchers, do drop us comments and like and share and all that good stuff. Everybody jump over to the Cookiecast.com, check us out over there, and like I say, send us an email. So that's it. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then. Bye.